Well, good day, troopers. Welcome back to another episode of Milton's Monday Motivational Message. Hey, may I ask you a question? Not one that I want you to answer for me. One that I want you to answer honestly for yourself. So why is it that everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die? Right? I mean, think about that. Every one of us wants that destination if you're a Christian. Very few of us want the journey that gets us there, though. So, and after what, more than 30 years of serving the United States Army, after leading soldiers in high-pressure environments, after serving at multiple four-star commands, after serving as an assistant professor at university, and after coaching leaders, executives, organizations, and students, I've discovered one truth that may be even more important. Everybody wants to win, but no one wants to fail. Yet, failure is the doorway through which every meaningful victory eventually walks. That isn't motivation speaking, that is reality. And today, I want to challenge something that many of us believe our entire lives. I don't believe failure is the problem. I believe our response to failure is the issue, right? So hey, my name is George A. Milton, America's Failure Coach, Major Failure Tastic. I am a retired United States Army Colonel, founder of America's Failure Command, creator of Failure is Not the Problem philosophy. I'm an author, a speaker, an executive coach, failure practitioner, and today I'd like to have a conversation with you about success, but about the one subject that determines whether success ever even arrives, and that is, guess what? Failure. We were never taught how to fail. Most of us weren't. So let me ask you another question. Growing up, how many classes did you take on responding to failure? Not avoiding it, responding to it. How many? How many people talk to you about that topic on a meaningful level? I know the answer. But most of it is zero. We learned mathematics, science, history, reading, writing, leadership, business, some of us, finance, not many, communication, but no one ever sat us down and said, one day your plans will fall apart. One day someone will disappoint you. One day you'll lose something you desperately wanted. One day you'll question yourself. When that day comes, here is how you respond. Nobody teaches that. Instead, we're taught to chase perfection. Don't make mistakes. Don't lose. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't fail. Then, guess what? Life happens, and suddenly we discover something. Failure didn't ask permission before showing up, did it? It simply arrived. The question was never, will failure visit your life? The question has always been, what will you do when it does show up? Look, people often assume that military organizations are built upon perfection. Nothing could be further from the truth. Military organizations are built upon preparation, training, practice, correction, feedback, repetition. And one of the most powerful tools we have in our arsenal is something called the AAR, or the After Action Review. After every mission, after every training exercise, after every rehearsal, we gather together, not to assign blame, not to embarrass people, not to destroy confidence. We ask 5 simple questions. What was supposed to happen? What actually happened? Why was there a difference? What did we learn? And what will we do differently next time? 5 important questions. So think about that. Failure wasn't hidden. Failure wasn't denied. Failure became education for us. Failure became preparation for us. Failure became wisdom. Failure became the bridge between where we were and where we needed to be. Now, imagine if families did that. Imagine if schools did that. Imagine if businesses did that. Imagine if marriages did that. Imagine if you did that instead of asking who's to blame. You ask, what can I learn? One question changes everything. So check this out. During my military career, I learned something that has strayed and stayed with me for decades. The strongest leaders were not always the leaders who never made mistakes. The strongest leaders were the ones who own their mistakes. I've watched commanders, stand before organizations, accept responsibility, adjust a plan, restore confidence, and move everyone forward. I'll also watch the leaders spend all of their energy protecting their image, protecting their ego, protecting their titles, right? And while they protected themselves, the organizations stopped growing. Leadership isn't about appearing perfect. Leadership is about responding when perfection disappears. That realization became the beginning of America's Failure Command, because I realized the world has thousands and thousands of organizations teaching people how to succeed. Very few teach people how to respond when success disappears. You know, one of the most dangerous sentences people ever say is this: I'm a failure. No. You experienced a failure. Those are not the same thing. Failure is an event, not an identity, correct? Look, you can fail at business, you can fail an exam, you can fail an interview, you can fail in a relationship, you can fail to reach a goal. And most of us, I dare say all of us have at one point. But none of those failures determine your value or have to determine your value. One event should never become your identity. Unfortunately, millions of people allow one moment in their life to determine an entire lifetime. They stop believing. They stop trying. They stop risking. They stop dreaming. Not because they lack talent, but because they confused what happened with who they are. Don't ever make that mistake, guys. Look, failure is gonna happen, no question. Failure is not who you are, though. So, have you ever noticed that success gets all the publicity while failure does all the work? People celebrate championships. They never show the lonely practices. People celebrate billion-dollar companies. They rarely talk about the years they struggled, chugga, to survive. People admire confident leaders. If you understand how many failures shape that confidence that those leaders have. Confidence isn't born. Confidence is earned. It is earned by serving and surviving difficult days. It is earned by standing back up. It is earned by trying again. Every scar has an attachment to it, right? But it doesn't mean it has to set you back. I mean, look, every setback contains information. Every disappointment contains instruction. If you're willing to listen, you can move forward with all of those imperfections. Here's the deal. At America's Failure Command, we don't teach people how to avoid failure. What we teach is people how to command their response to the failures. Everything begins with 4 principles here at America's Failure Command. Understand failure. You don't react emotionally. You understand objectively. Separate emotion from the evidence. Separate assumptions from facts. Second, we embrace the failure, not simply celebrating it, right? Not enjoying it necessarily. We accept reality. Reality doesn't change because we dislike it, right? So the third thing is we learn from the failures. Every setback leaves clues. Are you listening? Are you paying attention when that happens? Every disappointment contains instruction. Every failure teaches something. If you refuse to learn, then failure repeats itself. And finally, teach you how to re-engage with your failures. This is where champions separate themselves from everyone else. You see, most people stop after disappointment. Leaders begin again. One more conversation, one more interview, one more proposal, one more attempt, one more opportunity, because they understand something. The next success may be the one response away to getting you to where you need to be. So I have a question for you. What failure are you still carrying? A business failure, a divorce, a promotion, a dream, a relationship, a decision, a regret? Now, let me ask something even more important. Why are you still carrying it? Think about that for a second. Why are you still carrying it? How much longer will you allow yesterday to steal tomorrow? How much longer will one chapter be allowed to write the ending of your story? There is something that has stayed with me for years. So look, perhaps it stayed with you also. You see, the cemetery is full of people who never recovered from failure. Not because failure defeated them, but because they stopped responding. Think about that. Dreams buried, businesses never started, books never written, children never encouraged, ideas never shared, companies never built. Lives never changed. Not because people lacked ability, but because somewhere they stopped responding. Long before the heartbeat stopped, their hope stopped, their courage stopped, the willingness to try again stopped. Failure didn't bury me, right? Hopelessness did. Fear did. Shame did. To believe that one bad chapter was the entire book, please don't let that become your story. So, why did I even create America's Failure Command? People ask me that all the time. Connor, why do you create America's Failure Command, baby? What's the deal with that? Because after 30 years of leading people, I became convinced that our greatest leadership gap isn't intelligence. It isn't education. It isn't technical competence. It is failure, response, capability. You see, schools prep people to pass exams. Organizations prepare people to increase profits. Leadership programs prepare people to motivate teams. And all that's great, right? But when failure arrives, most people are left completely unprepared. That's why America's Failure Command exists, guys, right? To help individuals just like you. Families, students, educators, healthcare professionals, executives, military personnel, athletes, entrepreneurs, and organizations. Help all these people develop the one capability that determines whether adversity becomes defeat or transformation. Look, failure is not the problem. Your response is. My mission every time and everything I teach, everything I write, everything I speak about comes back to one belief. If we can change the world's relationship with failure, we can change the world. I believe that. That's why I wrote Failure's Not the Problem. It's the beginning of your success. That particular book has a workbook and a journal to help you go deeper. For all you high-speed leaders, man, it's totally important to understand that. Because your greatest setback may be your greatest teacher. That's why I wrote for leaders, failure is not the problem. It's your leadership. Because leadership is never measured when everything goes according to plan. And guess what? Nothing always goes according to plan. Leadership reveals itself when the plan falls apart. I also wrote a couple of children's books, right? And look, how do I say this? I want children to learn this long before adulthood in a positive way, right? So that's why I wrote my first kids book, Is Georgie a Failure? Conversation between a father and a son. And the second book, Failure to Grace and Her Failure-tastic Experience, conversation between a mother and her daughter. So imagine this with me, if you will. Imagine if children grew up believing that mistakes are opportunities to learn instead of evidence that they aren't good enough. Imagine how different our schools would and could be. Imagine how different our workplace would be. Imagine how different our families would be. That's the future I'm working to build. I mean, come on. So look, challenge yourself. Here's what I want you to do. Here's your challenge today. I want to challenge you today, this week, this month, this year. Do one thing you've been avoiding because you're afraid of failing. Make that phone call. Submit that application. Start that business. Write that first chapter of your book. You know what? If you wrote a page a day for a year, that's a 365-page book, man. What? Have that difficult conversation. Apologize. Forgive. Apply. Lead. Try again. Because every extraordinary life is built one courageous response at a time. So let's return to where we began. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Everybody wants to win, but no one wants to fail. But winning does never belong to those who avoided failure. Winning belongs to those who understood it, embraced it, learned from it, and guess what? Boom! Re-engaged after it. So, failure isn't standing in the way of your future. Failure may be introducing you to it and you don't even know it. I'm George A. Milton, America's Failure Coach. I care greatly about you. I'm the founder of America's Failure Committee. I'm an author, a speaker, executive coach, Hall of Fame inductee in the Officer Candidate School Hall of Fame, host of the Failure is Not the Problem podcast, where every episode explores leadership, resilience, failure response, and practical strategies for responding to adversity with confidence and courage. Look, guys, if today's message encouraged you, subscribe to the channel, share this episode with someone who needs it, and join me as we change this planet and this world, right? One conversation at a time. We can do this. So until next time, command your response, respond and rise. And never forget, failure is not the problem. Your response is. Thank you for watching. You have an outstanding day. This is Major Failure-tastic signing off. Ho-wah. Take care.